The letter showing that Ms. Presence is absent, all of the members of the board are present. And we want to invite you to the pledge. So, Mr. Brian Gould, welcome to us.
Yes, sir. Trustees, we have Sandy Stood here from Raise Up Texas. You're aware that we've been working together with Raise Up Texas this summer. We're very excited with the new partnership. Raise Up Texas is a group that is endorsed by Texas Education Agency. We're one of 5 actual programs that are being endorsed for different types of focused improvement efforts in school districts. In our particular case, we've targeted our junior high as an opportunity for us to continue to improve the quality of what goes on in every classroom every day. And our biggest interest in partnering with Raise Up Texas is that it's a systemic school-wide approach. And there's a proof of concept. There are many districts across the state who have implemented the model, and we think it's a perfect fit for us. And already the reviews we're getting from the campus staff and teacher leaders and administrators who are working together with Sandy and the Raise Up Texas team, the Region 20, are really putting some great plans in place that we're really excited about. I wanted her to come here today to give the board an overview of what we could expect to see at our 2 junior highs as a result of this partnership. Sandy?
All right, thank you for such a great introduction. It has been a delight my name is Sandy Saab, as he said, and I am a leadership consultant and a leadership coach for the Raise Up Texas schools. I am an employee of Region 20, so we do other work to support you as well, but our focus today and the thing I was invited to talk about is Raise Up Texas, and we're very excited to already have started to work with your leadership teams from both Heritage and Legacy and your amazing curriculum team. They have been engaged in every piece of this project. Dr. Fuller and Mr. Holbert and Ms. Casper have been present at the trainings and really learning alongside with your leaders. And I have to tell you, as a Region 20 team, there are 3 of us, we are so impressed by that. And we already are so much further down the road with your schools than we feel like we were by December with our first cohort schools. So that's kudos to the work you do here at East Central. As he said, this is a multi-year transformational project designed to meet the unique needs of middle schools. And when we look at, it is one of the 5 TEA instructional leadership initiatives. And I don't know if you've heard of the Effective Schools Framework that TEA has just rolled out. This particular initiative actually meets all 5 of the criterion in the Effective Schools Framework, so that's exciting as well. And it's specifically designed for middle schools to reduce variability. So if you think about it, when an elementary student goes off to school, they have a lot of safety and security because they're mostly with one teacher all day long. And then we go into the middle school environment, and all of a sudden, every 45 minutes or however long your classroom period is, a bell rings, and we all go and we get a brand new boss. What would happen to you if every single day, every hour, someone rang a bell, and you got a brand new boss with different expectations, with different ways of communication, with different procedures, and to top it off, your hormones are changing and you've got a lot of physiological things going on in your body, so it's already complicated. It's complicated socially, emotionally, and it's also complicated because some of your students are there and they aren't at grade level yet. They've struggled to get at grade level in the elementary environment. And so that's why this project targeted middle schools, because of the unique challenges that face middle schools. The project began in 2011. There were 6 schools that became a part of the project with the E3 Alliance in Central Texas. And that was the pilot year, 2011. Results looked really great after the first initial 3 years. One of the schools had significant turnaround and growth. And because of that, they were asked to expand the project even further. So within the next few years, they now have over 26 schools in this project in Central Texas. They then began to look around for expansion beyond Central Texas. And so they contacted Region 20. Region 20 formed a partnership with the E3 Alliance and TEA to bring Raise Up Texas into our regional schools. So last year was our first year with schools. We had 7 in our first cohort, and this will be our second cohort of schools, and we will have 5 additional schools joining this cohort. We've already begun the training with those schools, and we are ready to go. So, why Raise Up Texas? Just as I said before, because middle school students have unique challenges. And this is a very literacy-focused program, and we are specifically looking to meet the needs of your struggling learners, those that are struggling to read at grade level, those that are struggling to understand concepts at grade level. That's our major target with a whole school approach. And I say that to say that when we began to bring this initiative in, the thing that caught our eye at Region 20 was that this initiative has 40 years of research behind it. The strategic instructional model that's being used and being taught to your schools originated in the University of Kansas, because what they realized is we need to do a better job at teaching kids how to think, teaching them the process of thinking, so that they basically making thinking visible, so that students can transfer that thinking process to any content and any aspect of their life. And so there are content enhancement routines that we utilize in order to help students understand the thinking behind breaking down a big concept into bite-sized pieces so they can learn the pieces. And so part of what we teach is the content, but also the thinking routine to help get them thinking for themselves. With such a strong literacy focus, we also require schools to identify students that are 2 to 4 years behind grade level in reading. We ask schools to identify students that have failed the STAR test or the EOC test, that are struggling with your identifiers when you give your benchmark assessments and those things. That group of students that are struggling and you know them to be struggling for multiple years, we ask you to identify them and put them into a special class where they get special focus. And so that's been very, very effective. some of our first year regional results.
And just a quick clarification, so when we say literacy focus, we're not talking about myopic literacy at the expense of other content, but literacy as a foundation for learning all content at a very high level.
Exactly. Yes. No, we are not hyper-focused on literacy. We're hyper-focused on all content and helping students read at the level they need to grasp the science content, to grasp the social studies content, right? So we continue to break down the thinking processes necessary to break down the content. Our regional results, we're pretty proud of our schools. We're pretty proud and pretty excited to share some of their results. So I'll share a few with you just after 1 year. Now, obviously, we know true transformation takes 3 to 5 years. So here's a few results. A third-year IR campus met standards and is out of IR. A campus saw an increase in closing the gaps data. And you go, well, why'd you write it that way? Well, this was a unique campus in that they have a magnet school. They have a school within a school. And so the magnet school attracts very high-achieving students. And then they have the rest of their students. And so what they had noticed and identified, the reason they wanted in the project was they wanted to close the gap between those student groups. And so when they got their data and they showed the closing the gaps data was on the group of students that they wanted to target and wanted to help bring them along and get them more engaged in the learning process. So they were very, very excited in their results and happy to share it. Then the learning strategies class, which is a literacy class, focused to help students that are 2 to 4 years behind in reading come up to grade level. Here is one of our schools, our campus's results. 48% of 8th graders in the learning strategies class who had never passed STAR on the first administration.
Other kids will be 2 to 4 years behind grade.
Yes, sir. And they had never had success. 76% of the students in the learning strategies class met or exceeded growth as compared to only 49% of students not in learning strategies. 50% of the students that failed the STAR, so of those kids in the learning strategies class, the 50% of those that failed, which is, you can do the math, 52%. 50% of those that failed met or exceeded growth, 20% of them exceeding growth measures. So what we know is the learning strategies works. We know that students are moving forward with that targeted support and with the strategies that we're bringing to them.
So we just want to point out, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but the learning strategies class will be made available to junior high. We've also identified an opportunity to add to those classes high school round because we have students at the high school level that are matriculated in the system. And while we've been able to close the gaps, we've not been able to close the gaps at an accelerated rate like this. And as kids get older, it's more difficult to accelerate literacy. And that's what we're so excited about the model of university kids put together. So much so that we're adding the 2 classes at the high school as well. Because there is a growing number of very large number of students there for a long time. 2 to 4 years behind as well. We've been able to close it a year here, a year there. We're talking about 2 to 4 years time for half the students in 1 year. So I just want to point that out.
And you can imagine if you had something where someone was assessing you and you never have been successful, how discouraging that would be. And so to see that kind of result is thrilling because these are students who are about to check out the whole school process. These are 8th graders, and the research says that what happens academically by 8th grade is a bigger indicator of success through high school than actually what they learn in high school. So we want to capture them by 8th grade, get their learning turned around, and help them engage in the learning and be excited to come to our schools. So how will Raise Up impact your schools? First and foremost, you do all kinds of wonderful things. You spend a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of funds to bring the best to your students. And your district is, in my opinion, after researching you a little bit more, one of the best at identifying some really great things to bring to your students. What happens is, sometimes those arrows start to almost work against you, and teachers can begin to feel overwhelmed, maybe death by resource almost, right? And so the point of Raise Up Texas is to help all of your efforts become aligned through the vehicle. Raise Up Texas just simply becomes the vehicle through which we begin to bring that alignment campus by campus. And how do we do that? We do that by utilizing, I brought a little handout with just the components. Shannon, just making sure it's here are the component parts. I'm not going to go over these in great depth. You can read for yourself. But what we do is we walk your schools through a process utilizing all of these 5 big rocks, if you want to call them. And so I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to just review it without me talking, because I know if somebody handed me something with all that, I'd want to do that. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. So what has been particularly inspiring and exciting to us at Region 20 is that your team and you have already worked very hard to bring alignment into your district. Shannon shared this with us, and we were so excited about it. The 4 priorities you have identified and the 7 pillars. She showed me an alignment, some alignment documents and just lit up when she talked about that. And we were very, very, very excited about that because you've already done a lot of groundwork that many, many districts have not done. And so I'm just going to simply show you how these big rocks fit into your priorities already. You already have a priority basically for teaching and learning. So all 5 of those big rocks align with your objectives that you have already identified and listed. In your priority 3, your collaborative and inclusive and collaborative partnerships, coaching support, and the campus unit organizer tie right in. The campus unit organizer is a content enhancement routine, but your campus is identified. Where's this going to fit in our plan? How are we going to bring that forward? With your priority 2, high-performing and engaged workforce, 4 of the 5 components fit right in with that. And with your final priority, the smarter instructional cycle and the campus unit organizer fit right in with that. And some of the principles, some of the discussion among principals was so rich about how it fits in there and how when teachers are asking for resources, when they can align the resource they need to the tangible goal out here for the student, it's going to be more effective in using the dollars wisely to spend them on things that truly matter for student learning. So they were very excited about that. And then Jim Knight, also from the University of Kansas, his research is all about how coaching, professional development coupled with coaching, allows for more fidelity of implementation. And so the final piece that's here is that you will have coaching support ongoing for the entire time you're in this project. All 3 of the Region 20 team members will be on each campus 1 time per month. The other 2 ladies will spend full days. I will spend a half day with the leaders. The other 2 ladies will focus on classroom, on PLCs, on professional development. I'll focus on helping your leader be the best leader they can be. I'm a certified professional coach, so they'll get a little life coaching on the side too. And I'll be helping them figure out how effectively they're leading this. And it supports all the way down to the student level. And it actually supports your core belief. Every student is challenged to advance their knowledge and ability in every classroom, every day. That's going to be the goal. And I also had so much fun exploring your core business, what you called your core business. And so I just want to kind of end my little piece before I ask you if you have any questions. I have a question for you. When all graduates of East Central ISD are able to read critically, write compellingly, think logically, and solve problems creatively, and are prepared for life, what one-word feeling will you experience? What's your word? Successful. What's your word, sir? Got one yet? It's all right. Do you have one, sir?
I probably relieved.
Really? Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you?
Proud.
Proud. Pride.
Inspired.
Inspired.
Successful.
Successful. Successful.
Joy.
Joy. Right? Absolute passion. What about you, ladies? Prepared. Successful.
Exceptional.
Exceptional.
Definitely just happy.
Happy, right? Because that means that's really your goal here, is that sense of pride, that deep down joy, that knowing that we have worked hard for a reason that we can hold on to, right? And so that's your real goal. Raise Up Texas is going to join this journey and help you get there. That's our goal. And we're going to feel proud when you do it. So, any questions that you might have?
I guess my only question, why not start sooner than middle school? Because you said it does take 3 to 5 years. Obviously research, but
3 to 5 years for change,
right.
for transformational change. Actually, in Central Texas, it was so successful in some districts, they did move it down into elementary schools. And we actually have in our project one school last year that was doing this pre-K through 8th grade. And we're adding a school this year that is pre-K through 12. So yes, it can be done across all grade bands. The thinking is that research says, in fact, there was research done by ACT, the group that does college entrance exams, and they called it the forgotten middle. And they're the ones that brought forward that research about what the level of success that kids reach by 8th grade is going to be very indicative of their success in high school. So yes, ma'am, it can go lower. It's targeted for 8th grade. And you should see those little preschoolers with their UO. They've got hand signals and everything. And we just do it a little differently with them. It's more teacher directed as opposed to students leading the learning with one another. Yeah.
You mentioned about having a different boss each period. Now, these kids that are identified to be in this program, you're not going to continue them in one class all day.
No, sir, not at all. No, they'll still go from class to class. What's going to happen is they're going to get the same routine in every class. It's going to be very predictable about the way they interact with their content. And they're going to be using a certain device. So one of the students at a different school said to me, we don't even have to ask the teacher what we're doing today anymore. because they already know. It's already handed to them every single day, and they interact with that knowledge every day.
Just another additional point of clarification. I'm going to do this, the last bucket, learning strategies is one of the tools. That's the literacy class. For the kids who are 2 to 4 years behind, that's one of the tools you'll see. But school-wide, every kid that includes them will experience all of these systems being part of their school. And then for kids going class to class to class, what Ms. Slau was pointing to is they're going to have consistent experiences. So if you look at the instructional playbook, the second column,
Yes, sir.
the school will come up with 3 to 5 plays. So as an old coach, you know that sometimes you got a big playbook and you don't run none of them well, and then there's programs that have 3 to 5 plays that they say, you know what we're running. We're just going to run them so good you can't stop them. So this ensures that every teacher knows those 3 to 5 plays, and whether they're a PE teacher, an algebra teacher, or a computer, science teacher, or an art teacher. When a kid goes to those classes, same plays being run. In other words, when we come into the classroom, if that's one of their plays, the entry routine, they're all doing it. So now there's no inconsistency, right? So now you don't have one teacher fighting a good fight, and then there's 6 different experiences, so kids I don't really do that.
That clarification,
But that's
pretty good.
So that's the system-wide thing. When we all do it, kids adapt really quick. When some of us do it, we're not serious.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Any other questions?
I was going to touch a little bit on the college education now, it's just middle school, right?
Currently, here in this
And
district.
so, and I know you talked about the success of them and how to do that kind of thing. Is it a type of projected analysis that they will continue to do what I call critical thinking, what people, everybody needs, continue on through high school? Or is there some follow-up at some point to see that they transition well, that they continue with the thinking process and learning process even at the end?
I would say at this point, for me, I don't know of concrete data that shows that. All I know about is some soft data. And one of my teammates was in one of the original Raise Up Texas schools as a teacher and as an instructional coach. And she told the story of one of her students who was in high school getting ready to write an essay to get into college. And the girl called her. And she said, could you help me with my essay for college entrance? And my friend mentioned, what if you use the frame routine? And she says, yeah, that's a great idea. And the child whipped out what the frame routine was. And then together they walked through it as she fleshed it out. So it's kind of just soft data. However, it's whenever you teach a learning routine, every one of them comes with linking steps or an acronym, and you constantly are reinforcing that. And it's kind of hard to forget them actually once you get to learn them.
Well, I'm particularly interested in this and excited about this, and I see the enthusiasm from you as a coach. I was sharing with our superintendent a few days ago, last week, that in our church we did a Sunday school convention, and we did some learning pillars. And one was focus, one was framework, and another one was fear of failure. And we invited a videography team to come in, and we had, people teaching, and I even on the level, well, we did it from levels from the beginning, from first grade up to 12. But we also had a segment for pre-K, which I ended up doing.
That took some energy.
I was barely hanging on, but I did it for that. But what my point is that they would all be able to feed into the, and they could all learn. And this was like a couple of days or so. So and we were just amazed at these various children that learning, that they were excited about learning, it was fun, and we did a lot of things. But my point is, I remember when you were saying this, and I'm looking at this, and I keep seeing this, and I'm thinking, wow, this could be the answer to getting kids excited about learning, helping close gaps, and trying to be able to present something where they feel like they can be used, continuously and that kind of thing. And hopefully parents and communities can get excited.
Everyone is going to get used to these devices and used to how students are learning. And to your point, your curriculum team, they have no intention of doing this just at middle school. They'll be using the smarter instructional cycle across your entire schools, all schools, because they already have planned for planning time. Now they're going to, on their own, introduce smarter instructional cycle across the district. So yes, it won't stop with just middle school here. Officially, we'll be coaching support for the 2 middle schools. Thank you for your time today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your meeting. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have engagement. So trustees at the goal setting workshop, one of the big goals that I ended with, among several, was that given the mission, vision, values, the profile of a graduate and the community-based accountability system is anywhere from 3 to 5 years old, that I felt like it might be time to take a fresh look at those documents by engaging the community in multiple ways, pulling some focus groups together, and getting some good feedback so that we can then put a design team together, use that feedback to overlay that feedback over these documents to make sure that they're still tightly coupled, that they're still reflective of the things that our community wants, hopes, and expects from our schools for its kids, so that we can then decide, all right, now as we look ahead 5 years, what are the big things that we envision accomplishing, and then backward map really tight plans 1 year at a time to accomplish that. So that's kind of a process we went through, 3 and 5 years ago, and I just feel like it's time to bring a third party in and revitalize that work, refresh it. And so we've been talking to Engage to Learn, and Nancy's here from Engage to Learn to give the board an overview of what that scope of work would look like, what would it include, and what the timeline looks like, and what the deliverables would be, so that we can reconsider if this is something we want to move forward with. So.
Thank you very much. Good evening. As you can tell on your agenda, I'm not Albert, but I'm the next best thing, so I hope y'all upset me this evening. It could have been, right? We actually wanted to thank Andy, but it didn't work out. So anyways, but I appreciate you all giving me a few minutes of your time this evening, just to kind of go over the strategic design process, and talk about the search style. We have gone through together all the stuff that you've already designed here at East Central, and then ways in which that we can kind of bring the community more into the fold and really get their input and see if they're still relevant, as you mentioned, or if we want to do some enhancement through support with the design team. So I'm going to briefly share a little bit about Engage to Learn. He told me I had 10 minutes, and so I'm going to try to honor that time. We'll see how well I do. I mentioned my name is Mitzi, and this is my 19th year in education. So I was a classroom teacher, an instructional specialist, a district level coordinator, and I joined Engage so that I could help partner up with other school districts across Texas and beyond. So when this is some staff, you can see their tower.
Hopefully.
Our mission is to help the neighborhood public schools be the first choice for every family. We are really passionate about this mission, and that means we're so passionate we turn down business to the charter schools all the time, because we believe that our public schools really help with equity and just kind of bridging that social class divide and preparing students for life. And so we only partner with public schools, and we're very proud of that. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's a little risky, and we actually don't think that. We think it's amazing. And so every single person in our organization is a Texas educator. So here's just a couple of districts that we've partnered with over the years. We've been in existence since 2011, and so we're just happy to have the potential to partner with you as well. So this is really our strategic design model. So the left-hand side is where we start with the engaged process. And we have 3 different ways in which we engage with the community. One is through summits, which are open community events for anybody in the school district or community to attend, to kind of really lend their voice and their input to the school district. So we really want to figure out what are your highest hopes for kids, and, how will the education change based on different technological advances that are happening, and really what do we want from our kids as they graduate East Central. So we have some open forums, which are called summits. Focus groups are homogeneous groups where we invite people in. So for example, we could say business leaders in the area are a focus group. Campus leaders are a focus group. We even invite students to be a part of our focus groups and our summits because they sit in our classrooms every day. They give us really candid input on what they think about their classes, their experiences, and their engagement. And so we have students at every point in the process. The last piece that we do is an online survey. This survey goes out to anybody. It can be published in all media outlets. And so we want as many people to lend input as possible. That is really courageous of a board and a superintendent to do so, because sometimes we get feedback that really makes us think, right? Challenges our thinking. But we really believe in listening to every voice and honoring all the input that we receive in the process. We disaggregate all that data into a community engagement report. So we take a look at, that allows us to take a look at trends, what are some common themes that we're seeing in that data, and then how do we address that data, right? So that's really the whole point of it. Is now that we know it, now what do we do about it? So that's important. The design process, so knowing that you have a mission and vision and values and all of those pieces in place, the graduate profile, we want to take a look at, does that input reflect what we have designed? If it does, it validates it, right? It says, yes, it's affirming what we're doing and what we put on paper and what we believe in. And if it contradicts, let's take a look at it. Maybe we need to enhance it or just kind of revitalize it to reflect the input that we receive from our community. And so there's a couple of things, the values, mission, vision, the graduate profile. We'll also look at learner outcomes. Learner outcomes really are, as a result of the 16 to 20 hours that kids spend in a classroom over their lifetime, what do we expect? Not what's the test score that we expect them to get, but truly, what do we expect from our students? Like, how do we expect them to be prepared for life? As we mentioned in our last presentation. If they could do all those things that she asked, right? Those could be some potential learner outcomes that we decide. The interesting part about this process is that the community actually comes together and designs that. So I don't come in and tell you, these would be some great learner outcomes. As a community, you all come together and say, these are things that are very important to the community of East Central, and that's what we want to see as a result of this time that our kids spend in our schools. So the design team specifically is a cross-section of stakeholders in the district and in the community. So it's made up of parents, students again, staff members, some board members, business leaders, and community members as well. So every single person is intentionally put on the committee to represent a greater whole of the community or the district. The next piece is that we facilitate something called a vision for learning or a learning innovation framework. And so I'm going to skip through some slides. Okay. So a learning framework. So it's a little bit, as she was presenting, I was like, some of that sounds really familiar. So it is really about bringing things together, something being the one thing versus having a million little things, all the different programs and resources and initiatives kind of going in all directions. It's really helping streamline programs, initiatives, instructional best practices, all in one area so that everybody has a common language and we really come together to dream about what could learning look like without any reservations. So we lead the design team through a series of activities to help them really think about what do we want learning, if we could have the ideal learner experience for our students in our classrooms every day, what would that be? So it is some visioning, right? Because we have to dream really big. We have to think about the end in mind and then come back to how do we make that happen? So I was listening to her present. And if there are specific learning strategies that you want to go pre-K through 12, then it makes sense that we think about where do those fit within that learning framework as we design it. So it is not about isolating, saying we're only doing this. It's where do the things that we value and are a priority in our district, where do they fit in a learning experience for all kids? Might look different in pre-K than it does as a senior, but the idea of learning would be the same. So I'll talk a little bit about that. A learning innovation framework is founded on instructional best practices. So we've curated 12 of them. We did not create them. So there is a ton of research on instructional best practices that impact student achievement, and we've really narrowed that down to 12. And so the basis of a learning framework would be founded in these best practices. So we don't design, we're visionary, but we don't just go, oh, whatever works. We want to be visionary and know that it's tied to a best practice that increases student achievement. It also includes life-ready skills. So when we think about learning content, right, and becoming masters of that content, we also want to think about what are the skills that students need to be successful that help them be prepared for anything that they have, what career, college, military. So these are also skills that we've identified and will also map to that learning framework so that we can make sure that they're learning content and they're also developing and practicing those life-ready skills at the same time. These are just a couple of examples, and we call this the bow tie. So I wanted to just explain this really quickly. I know it's small. But on the left-hand side, so think of it kind of like this side, right? So this is all the community input. What do we care about as far as skills that learners should have as they graduate East Central and that they're developing throughout their time in school? All of those things we think about are the input from the community, so all that engagement work. In the center is what this particular bow tie is from Spring ISD in Houston. So their community designed this centerpiece, which is their learning framework. Things that they care about in Spring, they want to make sure learning in every classroom includes these components. So it's really, really small. There's really 4 different components in their actual learner framework. Some districts have 5 different important components. Again, it's locally designed, so it can be whatever you want to be. It can be a cycle, it cannot be a cycle. So it just kind of depends on what your community is looking for. On the bottom, it says instructional best practices. And on the right-hand side, it is a couple of different things. What's your academic return on investment? So if we know what our community wants, and we're going to use this vehicle to make it happen, what do we expect to get? So what are our learner outcomes? What is our success criteria to know that we're making progress with our students? And so some of what the previous presentation, there might be some confusion there, what those things could be based on the research and the model that she's currently using. Here's another example about PASO. So input on the left-hand side, best practices and the vision and mission of the district at the top, and then the academic ROI on the right-hand side. So, if we go past vision for learning, create and lead, these are next steps in our process that we may or may not want to continue, just depends on where we are in the district, and if you would want to move forward with identifying revised goals, strategies, action planning, and things like that, services that we facilitate, but may or may not go forward, depending upon, what your request would be. So, I try to make it quick, but any questions? You're like, I had too much education talk about anything. I understand. Okay.
Appreciate it.
We're going to take a break, grab something to eat, and we'll come back and let the legislative
All right, trustees, intent for tonight, a few weeks ago, was to provide a comprehensive, concise overview of the legislative session, and kind of like my dinner tonight, my eyes were bigger than my belly. And it's a 177-page document that I tried to cipher through after collaborating with CASA and Region 20 and other organizations trying to do the same thing. Said, you're crazy because we can't do it yet. I figured out that what I'll be able to provide you tonight is a high-level overview of some things that we know that may be relevant to us. But the biggest thing is, I know that does not send out an invitation for you to consider a list of dates at the regional service centers or school districts up in the area, because the regional service centers have gotten together and Region 20 is going to provide 86 legislative update sessions designed specifically for school boards. I'm going to attend one of Region 20 myself. And so if any of those dates work or locations work for you, I strongly encourage that you make one of those, because it will be the best overview that I've come across for us having a good sense of what we can expect down the road, policy updates. I'll also say that Dr. Fuller and Ms. Hertz and I were presenting community-based accountability at the TASIS Summer Conference, and while doing so, we had the opportunity to listen to the commissioner speak, and he was given a legislative update, but it was only one bill, House Bill 3. He spent about 30 or 40 minutes straight on just House Bill 3. His last comment was, good luck to all of you in the implementation of this. And the TEA between now and November, which I sent you guys that link, is putting together about a short video a week disaggregating House Bill 3 and providing a deep dive explanation in a short couple of minute video of what this actually means for us in our school districts. Very favorable bill in terms of funding, super complex, and a lot of details that are going to come as the year rolls on. And we're already getting indication that probably the next session we'll be optimistic that they'll polish out some of the rough edges of some of the things that are coming down the pipe, particularly with regard to how some of the dollars have to be utilized, a little less local control than maybe we would have hoped, but nonetheless, again, a really good bill. So, first order of business, if you can, make one of these. Second document that I want you to look at is the one that's titled House Bill 3906. I've highlighted a few, but all of it's relevant and all of it's there for your review, and I can get you more information on any of them, but at a glance, I felt these kind of spoke to us a little bit more or were more worth mentioning. The first two speak to the commissioner's requirement to put a committee together to review the appropriateness of the state assessment, particularly the readability studies. Okay, so you probably heard a lot during the session about the multiple studies that were being done saying that the test was at the appropriate reading level for the grade level that the test was administered to. So with regard to the validity of those tests and the unintended consequences of them not being at the appropriate level, the legislature felt strongly enough about it to bring that to the commissioner as a directive by law to study those and provide a report to the board. TEA has been adamant that they are the appropriate readability. All other professional groups, researchers, colleges, and universities who studied it conflicted with that. So hopefully we'll get some closure to that issue by law. There was also a lot of conversation about STAR test, as is always the case, everything from one extreme, it needs to go away completely, all the way to there's too many, and in between, the ones that we do administer are too long. And they disrupt the natural instructional cycle, and that they should be more of a part of instruction if they're going to be of use. And so the ledge heard that piece and passed in 3906 some language that allows for the test of 3 to 8 to be broken into parts, and that they can potentially be administered over several days in small chunks. In theory, we're waiting on the rules to come out. You wouldn't even have to shut down your school. You wouldn't have to, not have instruction and just make those testing days, but rather than be a more natural part of the teaching and learning process. So we'll see how that unfolds, but that's definitely relevant to us. There was also a lot of language around, because they're multiple choice, they've gotten so far away from really being indicators of what kids have really learned. From the inception of standardized assessments or assessment of learning, way back at Cambridge University, learning was measured through dialogue. You sit a kid right down next to you and you have a conversation about what the kids learned. And then you understand what the kids learned or not, and then you make instructional adjustments. We've swung all the way to the other end where we create in many ways inappropriate the way we use the results. The assessment is multiple choice that takes a small slice of the curriculum, offers questions that create a distribution of the sample of students that took it, and then we draw some conclusions. And that's about the extent of what they can do. Are there patterns we need to disrupt as far as how much of the content the kid learned, or how much of the content we taught? If a student is smart or not, if the teacher's good or not, if the principal's good or not, or the school's good or not, we can't do that. We've been teetering as a state for a long time trying to use a tool we can't do that to do that. And we know that very well. But this legislation is forcing the STAR test to be not all multiple choice. So it's requiring grade A grades and EOC exams, but not effective until 22-23 school year, to have at least 25% of that exam not be multiple choice. So scoring of those at scale is going to be a big issue. But hopefully it's nudging this one-time multiple choice standardized test accountability-driven system in the right direction. So we're somewhat optimistic about that. Back to the first page, back to assessment and accountability. You're very familiar with the individual graduation committee. If a student it meets all graduation requirements but falls short on one or more state assessments, a committee can come together, look at the student's body of work, offer the students some additional instruction, gather some additional evidence, and we make a committee decision about whether they met graduation requirements. That has been in place for a couple of sessions now. This board has approved that in support of the commissioner's ruling. However, Senate Bill 2013 continues to extend that through 2023 as an option and as a standing committee. House Bill 1891 allows for student scores, provided that they're above college level, on any of the state assessments in a subject area to count as college ready. So currently, that's not the case for every assessment, and so kids still, even though they've done very well on those assessments, they still have to pay to take a TSI test, which is a college entrance exam, to demonstrate readiness for college. Why that's important is if they don't do that, they've got to take remedial courses in college that cost the same, but don't be credit. And the data on that shows kids generally don't persist, don't complete, and they're not successful. So this is really good in that there are multiple ways beginning to be options for kids to prove college ready so they don't have to enter college and take remedial coursework. House Bill 4205 gives districts an option if they're required to put together a turnaround plan. Because of state accountability, there's another option out there called Accelerated Campus Excellence. It's the first I've heard of it. I don't know any details, but I can tell you these are things we always look at, and if they're good, we incorporate them before the state expects those things to be done at scale. So for example, years ago, we looked at the TASE process, which was a mandate. If the school was struggling, the state would come in and require you to follow this improvement process. Well, before we had any schools in trouble, we looked at that. So you know what, this is a good way to look ahead, identify opportunities, dig deep into the data and really know what we're looking at and make some programmatic decisions and then monitor our decisions along the way and make changes in real time as a part of continuous improvement. Well, that's evolved now to what you now see as the continuous growth process that incorporates all of our improvement systems. You heard the first presenter today mentioned the effective schools framework, right? And community-based accountability. You'll recall all of those improvement systems are now part of one system for us. That's why we have 4 priorities. And something like this really great system that we heard today from Raise Up Texas, you can look at it and go, wow, they fit within all of your priorities. Well, we would expect them to because our improvement models, our frameworks that we utilize are based on the most current research about what you would do in a school system if you were seriously designing a school system that is about excellence for every child. And so I was glad to see her crosswalk today, but this particular bill could potentially offer an option that may be more robust than the traditional turnaround plan. I'll tell you that the traditional turnaround plan is still a little compliance oriented, and it's not really something that it's hard to operationalize as something that drives our continuous improvement. It's more something you do within the timelines the state checks the box. And so the campus ACE Excellent Turnaround Plan is more aligned to what we're trying to do for continuous improvement. We're going to jump on board, and of course we wouldn't just do that for a school that's struggling. We do it for all of our schools. If it's good for one, it's good for all, it's going to make us better. So I just wanted to point that out. We'll keep an eye on it, bring more information to you when we learn. House Bill 678 allows ASL, American Sign Language, to count as a foreign language. Now, that's really important for us, okay, because we historically had offered Spanish and French. All foreign languages are important, okay? But what we have found is that there's not a lot of market value to learning French unless you're going to go to France and go on vacation or live there. You know, we haven't had many students do that. And so we have a lot of kids take Spanish, and sometimes we have kids take French because they don't want to take Spanish. But at the end of the day, the return on that investment for our kids' sake hasn't been real strong historically. As well as the number of French teachers who are qualified to teach French, much less quality French teachers, has been very different. And so we're, for the first time, beginning to shift away because we've offered ASL, sign language, is a very marketable language, additional language. We're seeing kids flood into ASL. And the hearing impaired community is very large. And we're finding that we're having a less difficult time to find certified ASL instructors than we are French. And so this legislation is actually going to help the direction that we've been headed. I wanted to point that out. House Bill 4310 requires, it requires, and I wanted to point this out because you're aware that we put a lot of work in the last 3 years into a curriculum management plan. We've located all of our curriculum resources in one location, easily accessible for all teachers. We trained our teachers on where to get your resources, how you utilize those resources. We've, in addition to the curriculum that we utilize, we've created critical content in partnership with the University of Texas, which takes a large number of standards and says, what are the, if you put these standards into chunks, right? Like, you don't learn a standard in isolation, they're part of a bigger system. What are those big systems of standards that form a major learning outcome? And we call that critical content. So when you think about a math curriculum that has 140 standards, but if you can reduce that to 8 or 9 critical content, it begins to show the connection and interrelatedness between all those standards. It helps us design instruction for kids much more effectively. Then we took those critical standards and we designed proficiency skills, which are basically saying, if a kid mastered these skills, here's what it would look like. And here's what it would look like if they mastered it beyond what we taught. And here's what it would look like if they were just shy, and if they were not even close. So now teachers can use that. That's how our grade books are built out. Remember, we use a standards-based grade book. So no longer is it about, does Johnny turn in the worksheet on Monday, or it's 20 points late. It's, did Johnny master this massive skill? And if he didn't, he ain't off the hook and the teacher ain't off the hook. Because, you know, all kids gotta learn it. It's just, John might learn it on Monday and Lola might learn it on Wednesday, but the point is, nobody's off the hook for everybody learning. So that helps our grade books be designed, and it helps teachers understand, when I'm trying to teach this content, what does it need my instruction need to look like to make sure kids actually learn this? So if you just had a curriculum from the state, and you didn't build these other tools, you leave it open to a teacher's interpretation, and you have a ton of variability. So we all know that we've been all about reducing variability and increasing consistency across every classroom. This guaranteed viable curriculum tool that we've been designing, that we're getting very confident in, is a foundation. If that's not level, nothing else on the house gets built properly or efficiently, much less effectively. So this particular law requires that the district does that anyway. But one thing that's mentioned there that I thought was interesting is it prohibits a district from penalizing a teacher who doesn't follow the scope and sequence. So if we design all of this collaboratively, and a teacher goes rogue and doesn't use it, they can't hold them accountable. So I don't know what that means, and I don't know what the intent behind that is. I just say that's what it says. We need to learn more about that to understand what the implications are. So I wanted to say all that, give you context, but then now you see how silly that statement seems in that law. Okay. Flipping to the very back, I thought in light of all of that, I might point to, I'm just going to jump straight to the best captions. You might want to look at the bills that did pass, because usually they're motivated by some interest group and they show up again in the next session. So we just want to keep our eyes on those things as we work with our legislators locally in preparing for the next session, that if they start talking about any of these things that would work against us, that we get engaged early, not wait to the session. But the best captions, right? There's always some craziness that happens during the session and you kind of just go, huh, wow. House Bill 1284 and Senate Bill 1805 were related to egg grading. I don't know what that means. House Bill 2596 and Senate Bill 86 pertain to the regulation of raising or keeping 6 or fewer chickens by a political subdivision. I already know what that meant.
You don't know about paper?
I do not know about it, no sir.
You weren't in that debate?
I do not, but I don't know what the law was speaking to, because that was the extent of it.
They're talking about how you grade an egg test.
But maybe I know about this. Maybe I can explain this, maybe someone else can. But House Bill 3646 and Senate Bill 2084 related to the operation of a motor vehicle while a person is occupying the trunk of the motor vehicle. So maybe that's more or less complex than understanding egg grading, but it was in there. So when I came across that, I thought, wow, well, you know. I guess all that to say that while there's good work that happens during the session, sometimes you got to take it with a grain of salt, and it's all the more reason why we all got to be really engaged in what's going on there, so that silliness like that doesn't take a lot of time and effort away from things that happen.
They're trying to limit the people amount of you put the trunk to sneak into the driving vehicle.
Maybe so.
Anybody ever been to the driving vehicle?
That's what they do.
You should have added a horse trailer on it.
All right, the last handout that I have for you regarding legislative update is regarding the bills that came across regarding school safety. And while we were very optimistic that there would be a lot of activity in the area of school safety, there was a lot of activity. What seemed to carry the day was more around mental health, more around facilities, visitor management, trauma support, counseling, and those sorts of things. And what are we doing? What can we do as a system? What can systems do in schools to ensure that kids and families have real-time support when going through difficulty, everything from academic to trauma in the family? So that's where most of it resided. A couple things I wanted to point to. One is that there's a Senate Bill 11 mandates that there's a campus threat assessment process in place, of course, in partnership with the School Safety Center. We've done that for years. Now it's mandated for everybody to do. You have to, and we've done this, but you know, in looking at the bill, I can see how there's probably opportunity for us to do these better. And that's training for substitutes in our classrooms on emergency operations. So sometimes that's an area that's a moving target, right? Making sure that every sub who moves from campus to campus to campus to campus understands what the emergency plan is at every site that they end up at. How can we design a protocol or procedures such that we can ensure that a sub in a classroom in any particular school in any situation knows what to do? Of course, we make tremendous advances with Navigate Prepared and the fact that there's an electronic tool in the palm of every adult's hands that allows us to have access to the information we need as well as communicate across the campus and across the system. But that's a mandate. There's also a mandate, and this rules have to come out with regard to reasonable time frame and specificity. Parent notification when there's a credible threat is a mandate that there has to be parent communication in a reasonable time frame. So we're waiting for the specificity of what that means. Of course, anytime there's a credible threat, that we've got to the bottom of, we get that information out immediately in multiple ways. we try to do that ahead of any media. We'd like to do that. Of course, that's not always the case. But to the extent we can do that and get good information out, it reduces the panic and allows us to be more efficient at ensuring that we can get through the situation and everybody's safe. We can execute our plans. So that's we'll get more clarification on that and make sure that we're within that time frame and better. But then, of course, there's suicide prevention curriculum for all stakeholders required now. We're waiting on rules of what that means, who are all the stakeholders, and what does that curriculum look like, frequency, duration, what would it need to look like to get the mark. We believe that's a good thing. And then child mental health consortium that's been put together in the state. Of course, there are a lot of organizations that have been doing this work. Now this is going to take this to the statewide level where everybody needs to connect. But for example, we've been working with Texas Tech, who has put together a consortium of mental health counselors, and through things like telemedicine, which all our employees have access to, a family can get contact to the mental health support through the Texas Tech program, and they can get real-time care, immediate care. And so this is encouraging because we think that infrastructure will be a lot broader, and it wouldn't just be in Central Texas and other, but we're already going to see some of that expanded work happening.
They have a website that, I guess when I was at the Board of Governors, actually some of the young people presented some of these options and the numbers to call them that, there was a lot of numbers, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, so we're waiting to see how it builds out, but we're definitely very engaged in those kind of partnerships and giving us more resources. So as far as funding goes, there was $339 million connected to school safety. Judy, look in a minute, she goes through House Bill 3 as it affects our budget for this year. We'll talk about the school safety allotment for East Central, which looks like it's a little bit under $100,000. All of the other funding that you see there remains to be seen with regard to how we can draw that down, whether that's through grants or different kinds of requirements to be able to draw some of that down. The only thing we know so far is we've got about over $90,000 regarding the school safety. That $100 million, that's what we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we've been able to do as a result of the new funding. Aspects of House Bill 3 with regard to safety, but also what we've been able to do through our reorganization of our school, elementary school model, going from K-5 for every school in our community and reorganizing boundaries. The year before that, we've been able to really distribute our student population very evenly, relatively evenly across the system, which has enabled us to balance classrooms more efficiently, which is in addition to the dual language consolidation. We've been able to utilize our staff so much more efficiently, and so as a result, we were able to rethink some of the positions for attrition that we had in place and repurpose those into more enhanced, more positions that were more likely to meet the needs as we identify them today without adding additional personnel costs. And so, I mentioned it again in a few minutes, but additional police officers, a coordinator of counseling is something we're looking at to make sure that counselors are implementing guidance models that meet kids' needs who are in crisis and not continuing to do the things that aren't in the core business of counseling. And so those are some of the things that I think the safety allotment can help with as far as staffing, but also we're going through the process of hardening our entries. Of course, many of our campuses are part of the bond program are getting that done, but we are also programming for all of our campuses to have that done. Funding for that is going to be an issue for us. So we also have applied for a Department of Justice Safety Grant. It's a $400,000 grant. We built into that our camera replacement cycle, training, enhanced training for all of our staff, to include the training I referred to earlier, facilities hardening across the system, as well as installing a district safety coordinator that will oversee safety and operations from the safety and security standpoint, the partnership with Chief Canowski seems not to be necessarily a police position, possibly with somebody who works at the administrative level in collaboration with Chief Canowski to administer our total safety management program. We believe that's one way to take us one step closer to fidelity. In other words, what we say is in our emergency operation plan is what we train. What we train is what we practice through scenario-based circumstances, and what we practice through training, repetition, scenario-based practice is actually what happens in any unforeseeable, unpredictable situation. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're responsible for, is making sure that anything that happens, nobody panics, everybody knows what to do, it's highly coordinated, effective communication, and really quick response, and minimal damage, whatever damage might be, facilities or so that's about the extent of school safety. The last page did, there was a lot of language, a lot of talk early about the school marshal program. Nothing made it out of committee with the exception that they did allow for districts who do have a marshal program to appoint one or more per campus. There was language about 1 per 400 students hired. That was the only change. Nothing else made it out of committee. So there was a lot of talk about training requirements, a lot of talk about funding, a lot of talk about whether they can carry it or not, all that sort of thing. None of that made it out of committee. It didn't get a lot of attention, a lot of traction. There was a lot of broad support on either party's Senate and House for any of those conversations. I think really carried today was House School Committee, tax relief, as well as school finance and CDB, where everybody did during the session. Again, we should be able to get more details on particularly the funding, hopefully through the training, the ledge update with services. That's what I'm kind of reporting. There's really not a lot of information other than the safety line regarding how that's going to be accessed, whether we'll be able to qualify for those funds. And then how can we do that?
Mr. Chief, you mentioned about how was being the first assistance students to mental health issues. And, just looking at some statistics across the city, I know some shortage of counselors. American School Counseling Association ratio is 250 to 1.
Yep.
Texas Counseling Association ratio is 350 to 1. East Central has 9,000 students, and we're 512 to 1. Are we comfortable with that ratio, or is that an accurate status? Is that an accurate statistic?
That's relatively accurate statistic.
Well, are we comfortable with that?
No, we're not. And so, one of the things, so our plans have really been touched. So, we began to evaluate that 2 years ago. We evaluated two things. Number one, we did a review of what the law says counselors are supposed to be doing in the implementation of a comprehensive guidance program. And we found that what our counselors were doing and what they're supposed to be doing, we're spending a lot of time on things that maybe were more administrative. I'll give you some examples. Master scheduling, state STAR testing administration, right? Those kinds of things. Maybe on duty, supervising students at lunch. Okay? So then, once we reevaluated, we began to train our counselors on what they should be doing while at the same time doing a time study. In other words, we started to track logs of what every counselor across the system was actually doing during their day. So before we started to hire additional counselors, it would do us no good if they weren't spending all of their time on the right stuff. So we had to figure out what they were actually doing, train them on the right stuff, and then figure out how to take care of all that other stuff that they were doing, because everybody's playing running over. So last year, we began to add program facilitators. That's a position unique to East Central. A program facilitator is a teacher position with a small staff, but they don't teach on a teacher basis. Their job is to get in there and do the things that either counselors or administrators have been doing, neither of which are core business of the school instructional leader or guidance counselor. So those things are like LPAC meetings, 504 meetings, TELPAS administration, test administration, STAR testing administration, AP test administration, master scheduling, response to intervention. So those buckets of work, which are tons of compliance, legal documents, You gotta meet those timelines, you gotta have the right documentation. But more importantly, you gotta implement those to meet kids' needs. Well, all of those things are developed through teams of people coming together and meeting. And you gotta get notice for those meetings, you gotta schedule those meetings, you gotta get people at those meetings. You gotta get the right information from those people at the meetings in preparation. So point being is you could have a counselor spending 20% of their time because they've been assigned ESL, LPAS. Or you can have an assistant principal who's overseeing instruction in mathematics and heritage, who's spending 25% of their time on test administration. None of those things are working with kids in crisis, right? So we implemented those positions first to take all of that work off of administrators and counselors, make sure they're doing the work they're supposed to be doing, train them and make sure they're doing this work right, program facilitators, because if we don't do that work well, there's a lot of exposure legally, and ultimately kids aren't getting what they need. We've done that, and you'll see tonight that we've added the last 4 program facilitators, so every campus in our system now has them. The next step now is to audit the ratios and begin to think about how to implement the appropriate number of counselors doing the right work in the right schools. And so we do believe that because there was a lot of language around making sure counselors are doing the things that they need to be doing to support students, we do believe that there may be some opportunities with some of the new funding buckets, but those clarifying interpretations haven't come out. So as we learn more, which Ms. Judy's going to go through the House Bill 3 and our budget workshop as our budget development cycle starts to come to a close. When we're done today, we're going to come back to you in July with whatever new whatever additional factual information we now know from today to July, so we give you more specific pointed numbers, and then in August we'll bring to you the proposed budget. So normally at this workshop we're pretty clear, right? Between sessions, we know.
Okay.
And then we come to you in August and you consider approval. But we're going to have an interim step. We're going to come in July and hopefully start to point more things out, which I suspect would include a conversation around counselors.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we are addressing that situation, because I would need more counselors with that ratio,
Yep.
512-1, you know, especially for, health issues. You know.
So
I'm glad you addressed it.
did that make sense why we, because we identified that a couple years ago, and instead of coming in and saying we need 7 counselors, and we hire 7 counselors and they're doing master schedule, and they're doing test administration, and they're coordinating LPAC meetings or administering TELClass, and they're not working with kids in crisis and administering the comprehensive guidance counseling program, we're not getting no return on our investment. So we had to go through this process to know exactly what we need, and while at the same time making sure if we're pulling all this work off of them, can we dump it on administrators? Well, then we pull them out of the classroom. What do we do with this work? It's got to get done. And it's got to be done effectively so it impacts kids in positive ways. So that's why we put program facilitators in place, and then now we're ready to start looking at counselors.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add to that, Dr. Fuller? Is that
That's very accurate.
any questions about any of that before we get into House Bill 3, which is the true big rock? All right, Ms. Judy. In your packet, trustees, you should have a bound copy of Ms. Judy's presentation. I got to looking at it up there and figured that Ms. Judy and I figured you might want one a little closer so it made it a little easier to read. This one print's a little small.
Did you want to do the action item?
So, you want to talk about that action item really quickly?
Yeah, we're going to move the action item to after our budget workshop, because some of the stuff that we heard about just now and the previous presentations really are very cohesive to our budget workshop. So to keep that continuity going, we're going to go ahead and move into the budget workshop, and then we'll deal with the action agenda item after that.
Well, thank you everybody, and been a very difficult one, and with a lot of new information that changes almost daily. Basically, from what I've talked to my different sources, this is the most major change in school funding they've ever seen. And I know, I've done this for 45 years, and this has been the most difficult one, the hardest to interpret, because TA doesn't even have the interpretations. So they told us when they finally voted on everything, and I get my template from Omar Garcia, and he's done the template for as long as I can remember. And I hope that man never goes away because they don't have anybody to take his spot. But the main thing he told us was be patient, don't panic, watch your numbers, I'll get a template out. And so he did, and he got it out the 1st of June. And he's already on version 4 because it keeps on changing, interpretation keeps on changing. But we've done just kind of what he said, is we've been patient, we've been conservative, and we're just watching all the numbers. Not only do I use Omar's information, I use CASBO, Equity Center, I use Moak and Casey, I use Region 20, I use CASA. In fact, the lady from Moak and Casey today, and I call them pretty frequently, and she said, Judy, I think I have a pen pal with you, because we're talking back and forth so much, but I need all the help I can get, because the interpretations are very hard to understand, and I will tell you that sometimes the interpretations vary from one group to the next. So we're going to just keep on plugging the numbers and working from there. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the school finance tier 1. The basic allotment went up to $6,160. In 1819, it was $5,140, but we had CEI, which is cost of education index of a 1.1. So our amount was for adjusted basic allotment was $5,505. So we only really gained $655 with the new rate. Some school districts gained a lot more because they didn't have the same CEI that East Central has. But as good things go away, they repealed the CEI and we no longer have it. So that was one of the things that they repealed. They also kind of had an adjustment for the small and mid-sized adjustments, but that's not applicable to East Central, so we won't even talk about that. When the basic allotment increases, districts must dedicate 30% of the per student revenue gain to the prior year to compensate for compensation increases, and that's for non-administrative staff. They want a gain and they want a raise for everybody with their money for teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors and other staff, but no admin. Does that mean you can't give your admin staff a raise? No, that doesn't mean that. But it means you can't use that gain that they show that we've gotten that we have to spend. And TA has PIMS codes that shows who can beat the other administrative costs. And so, for instance, we have some instructional specialists. We have some other people. And so what they said, well, use your PIMS codes to see if they can be part of the game on that pay raise or if they're admin. So I said, okay, we'll look at that. Well, what they're referring to goes back to 17, 18. And those codes don't even apply now. So I don't even have the same codes that they're telling me. Look at your code. So TA is going to have to address that because we want to make sure that we're using the money for the proper PIMS codes that are in the TA. So we get 30%, and 75% has to be for teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors, and then 25% can be for all other pay raises except for administrators. And one of the biggest gains right away what your comp ed money is going to be. Well, now they want to do it by census blocks. And they want you to geocode your students that are educationally disadvantaged into this, where they live, into this geocode, which sounds okay, except there are so many issues when you're trying to put it in the geocode under census, because a lot of streets aren't there, a lot of on the market roads you charge something else. So TEA went ahead and said, they're doing it, and they sent us what they thought we would have. Am I comfortable with their numbers? No, but I am using their numbers until we can get the property and the staff and the real, and we know our kids, and then we're gonna run our own reports, because I want to make sure the money that we're gonna get is accurate. I appreciate TA doing that, but it might be a little high, or whoever knows, it might be a little low. I want our numbers to be there. And so that's one of the big things, is that they went to the census group, which they didn't really give you a lot of time to figure this out. And most school districts that posted on Casco Connect will have major problems trying to put that information into the geocode. But comp ed is the major change where I'm going to go out and grab it.
So a couple of points of clarification, these are talking points. If we go back to the last slide, that are really important for all of us in this room. There are a lot of language about every teacher's getting $5,000 raise. Okay? Then the ledge passes House Bill 3 and says, we are so excited because this should be an average raise of $4,000 for every teacher, librarian, nurse, counselor. The problem is that every teacher, librarian, nurse, counselor got $4,000. The budget that they allocated isn't even close. So when you look at the formula that she just presented, our $655 increase in basic allotment, this is not exactly how it works, but the general idea is this. That's the new money, last year, this year. Of the new money, you have to take 30% of that out for compensation increases. Okay? Now, if you're in a school district with a higher, a maxed out M&O tax rate of 117, you got more money. If you are a very conservative district like East Central and have 104 M&O, you got less money. We got punished for being conservative. So the new model encourages, incentivizes you to go to taxpayer and raise taxes. So I'll just use the neighborhood district. Arnaville's at 117. They got almost double the revenue that we got at 104. Now, why is that important? They're using 30% of a lot more money mandated for salary increases. So you're automatically going to see teachers, librarians, counselors, and nurses at Harlandale, by law, get a lot larger raise than teachers at East Central, than teachers at a neighboring school district. We can talk about that in a minute. So we will no longer, unless this changes in future sessions, no longer be able to say, well, we want to be comparable with other like districts. That game is open. Okay, so you're going to start to see a huge discrepancy in the amount of salary increases that people are able to give, and the wages are no longer going to be competitive. You're going to lose the ability to control that if this stays the way that it currently is in future sessions. So 30% of that new money comes out. Of that 30%, 75% has to go to teachers, counselors, librarians, and nurses. 25% of that 30% can go to all other groups of employees, not administrators. Okay? And that's by law. So one thing I want to point out, and we'll point to again later, is we're doing the very best we can to get that number right. There's some assumptions that are moving targets. And I know I'm saying a lot of things you're already going to say, but I want to hear more than once. Those moving targets are average daily attendance. How much of our taxes we actually collect. Like, we have to make some assumptions. And we got to be somewhat conservative because we don't want to assume we're going to get more revenue than we actually end up with. But we want to give our salary and compensation as much as possible, as close to accurate as possible, all the employees, so they'll count towards TRS. But there's going to be a possibility that as some of these interpretations get more clear later in the spring, that even though we did our best guess, For some employees, we might have to settle up and give them a one-time check, because there may be more revenue than we thought in that 30%. And we're gonna have to give them a check, because by law, we gotta give that entire 30% to that group. Does that make sense? Now, that will not qualify for retirement. It won't go towards their total salary and average their top 3 or 5 years. But you can see why we don't want to give them a minimal raise and a big settle up later, because we'd be hurting our employees in terms of their top 3 to 5. So this is kind of our concept. Other districts are trying different strategies. This seems to be one of the more common, what we're going to share with you today. But that's interpreting a huge amount of complexity here that I wanted to make sure you had some general big picture idea about. On the next slide, what Judy was,
Explain that, district, 30%, that is 30% for the student. And what is that? Okay.
yeah, so that's basically any new money from last year to this year.
That is
30% of that's got to come out.
the first two.
And of that 30%, 75% of it's got to, that's how to generate, personally, is how to generate the money.
That's how you do
The
it.
total amount of money, then you take 30% of that out.
Out,
And of that 30%, 75% goes to teachers, nurses, librarians, in your basic plan. And it's not a, and it prioritizes, it gives preference to teachers over 5 years of experience. You have to build in a rate schedule that gives those with more than 5 years of experience more pay. All right, now, this comp ed used to be your average best 6 months of free and reduced kids. They will kind of multiplier and you know how much money you're getting. There was a lot of talk around this session that legislators agreed to. It says poverty is not poverty is not poverty. A kid who's in poverty 1 year is not the same as a kid who's in poverty for generations. If you qualify for free lunch, there's a band of qualifications. So there are still different degrees of poverty within that. So they've tried to create a methodology to calculate it. And they tried to give it to us, and we tried to figure it out. Nobody could figure it out. The TA said, we're going to do it for you. Here it is. Boom. This is the multiplier. And all of a sudden, we saw a significant increase, and we're like, whoa. If we utilize these funds only to find out that it's not accurate, what are you going to do? That's what Judy's saying. She's very skeptical. Because we're talking about the difference between $6 and $8 million. $2 million difference because of this census block model, saying we have a higher depth of poverty in some districts. Okay. So there will be more funding. We know that. We're just really going to hopefully have more clarity by the July meeting of what exactly that number looks like, and what exactly we can spend it on to help kids who come from the least optimal circumstances. We use those funds, then they don't show up. We got a problem.
And one of the other things that's a drawback is that TA is supposed to have a committee to address what you can and can't use it and how you can utilize those funds, but that won't be done for 18 months. So that doesn't really help us when we have a budget that we have to start on.
Well, and you used to have to spend 51% of those dollars in your business they said. Now, we got more money, and then they spend 55%. So there's some constraints there that we've got to get some good information on. And again, it'll be 18 months before they know for sure, but we got to start spending it now. I just want to be clear, okay, because it's what it is.
I did talk to one of my fellow people that I call all the time, and they did say that TA has said that they're going to give us a kind of like a waiver for this next year to not have to spend the full 55%. So that's good news, and that we might be able to find, we're hoping to find expenditures that we currently have in our local funds that we can be eligible to come out of state comp ed. But again, I'm excited about that they're giving us a little bit of a waiver time to come up with the right expenditures we need to have. And 55% of what they're going to give that we have to spend is like $1.5 million. And right now, for state comp ed, we're spending $3 million.
So that's a lot of money to, and it's not that I don't want to hire new programs or that we don't want to do that. We just want to make sure that we're utilizing the money the way it should be, and that we're not hiring new programs for something that we already have in place that would qualify. Okay, on special ed, they didn't really change anything except they made the mainstream weight a little bit higher. And again, special ed has now 55%, but that's no problem for us because on special ed, we've always spent 120%. Dyslexia, that's a new allotment, and it's based on the children that are actually served in the program. It's not children that are monitored, they have to be served, and so that's a new allotment. But we have always served our dyslexia students, so this one is not going to be an issue because we're going to spend more than what we're going to get from the allotment, and so we'll be able to use what overage we do from state company. So dyslexia allotment is great having it, and it's not going to be an issue to spend it. Career and tech education, they expanded the eligibility to grade 7 and creates additional advanced CT allotments for students enrolled in a P-Tech or New Tech network campus. And I'm sorry Taffy's not here because she could explain exactly what those are.
I'll explain. So CTE, first of all, this is important for us because from 9th to 12th grade, CTE classes get weighted funding from a Perkins Echo grant. So they kind of fund themselves, okay? The problem is every kid in CTE, in order to get to the internship part, which is where we want all our kids to be, they have to start with principles of technology classes. It is a prerequisite for that program of study. So they lose a year in high school to get to that 2-hour block. And so a lot of kids don't get it done. But we know we've always needed to offer it in middle school, but in order to equip those classrooms, we don't get funding from the state, so we've never been able to actually afford those. This, for the first time, allows for that. So we'll be able to begin to start teaching more principles of technology classes, the junior high, which is the prerequisite to start taking the programmatic courses and get kids to that internship, and potentially have kids have more than one coherent sequence that they can complete and have more than one internship, which from the employability goals that we have for every kid, that's critical. So that's really cool. P-Tech and New Tech are just basically campuses where kids are going to finish with an associate's degree, kind of like our old early college. So if it's that kind of program of study, you can qualify for some CTE funding.
Okay, and then the bilingual, we're getting additional dual language weights of 0.15 for ELLSs and 0.05 for non-ELLSs. And so that will generate a little bit more money for us, which will help in our dual language program with hiring the bilingual specialist and having the 2 schools as dual language programs. Now, here comes pre-K, where they have said, we want y'all have to offer pre-K full day for your students. A lot of districts only did half day. East Central has always done full day, and how we funded that was half was paid from the foundation school program, and the other half we paid from state comp ed. So now they're going to tell us, okay, we want you to have full day pre-K, but we're not going to pay you the full 100%. We're only going to still pay you the half. But we're going to give you an early education allotment to use to help fund that, which helps us. And so anyway, there's no direct funding for additional pre-K for ADA. The early education allotment has a weight of 0.1 and is for K through 3 students. And they said you can use that money to pay for your half a day pre-K. And so that means, okay, we're spending $3.2 million in state comp ed, and we're spending $700,000 for pre-K. Now we move the $700,000 to the early education allotment, and that frees up even more money we have to try to spend. So I talked to different interpretations from different people, and one of them said they felt like we would have, because we said we would just like to keep the pre-K, what we've been paying in our state comp ed, And 2 people said, yes, you can. Third people said, no, I think the way it reads, you have to move that into and pay that out of your early education loan. So there's another piece that we just have to wait and see for their interpretation. Because the early education allotment is about 1.7 million for the district to use for that program. And I'm sure that there will be some very good programs that we'll decide to do. And I don't know if Mr. Toscano wants to talk about pre-K for all, or...
Yeah, so our goal, and we've talked about this a few times, is to hopefully create the conditions where we can offer pre-K to every 4-year-old in our system, in our community, whether they qualify or not. So we're studying that this year, seeing how the rules unfold, and if it works in our favor, I think we'll be able to expand pre-K to every 4-year-old. Because we know every year, there's 200 to 250 of them sitting somewhere, but probably not in an early childhood education program. And so we know there'd be tremendous benefits to be able to offer that to all of our 4-year-olds and their families.
So districts that didn't have full pre-K,
Have to have full.
but they got allotment from the state, that's what I'm asking you.
They got the same allotment, but now they have to utilize it to do full day.
Okay, and we already had
We
it,
already had it.
so we don't get,
Well, we get it, but
We-
we're hoping, that's what the interpretation she was talking about, they allow us to, to continue using the money we were using in the way we were using it, and utilize this in the way that we want to use it, we'll be able to potentially do pre-K for all, but we've got to wait on the interpretation.
okay.
Because she got 2 that said one thing and 1 that said another, which has been the story of her life in all of this for the last month.
And one thing, when you get these allocations, some of them have what they call indirect cost allocations. And what that means, you have to spend a % of the allocation on the program. And then the rest of the money you can use for other indirect cost services. So they left and moved them up to 55%, which is really hard when they went up so much on the adjusted basic allotment, because it makes you have to spend more money on that program. When you kind of increase the adjusted basic allotment like they did, in the past, TA would go down because it balanced itself out. But this time they said 55%, so we're going to be scrambling for the 55% for state comp ed, or state comp ed, maybe bilingual, not special ed, and I think we'll be fine with that. And the next one that they gave us, they talked about is transportation. That they're going to pay us per mile instead of the route service report. I thought, oh, that's great, but there's some catch. It's only route per mile for regular bus routes. You still have to do the route service report for special ed, career tech. So, we have a little bit of leeway. It's not going to give us that much more money than what we were getting. I figured it'd be maybe 50,000 at the most that we could get more. But at least we won't have to do the route report for regular transportation. And other changes to school finance tier 1, like Rhoda had talked about, the school safety allotment is based on $9.72 for ADA. So right now it looks like we might get around $89,414. Our ADA goes up, we'll get more. And the new instructional facilities allotment, I was telling Rhoda today, if this was last year, we would really have this tradition. Because last year, we were eligible for the new instructional facilities allotment, and they were going to pay us on that, but they didn't have the money that they should pay us on it, so they're only going to pay us a percentage. I had calculated that we would get maybe about $700,000, and then we said, hey, wait, we don't have enough to pay everybody, so we need to get that by first. So $700,000 went down to $240,000 They took away the gifted and talented educational allotment. They took away the GT allotment, but they still expect you to have GT, which we do. The GT allotment was never an allotment. It was probably a little over 200,000 in the state available. So, they took that away. They took the high school allotment. We would get about 700,000, they took that away. And then they took away the cost of education. So those are kind of three major things that they reveal. And the highlights is just that it's a major formula change, full day pre-tender, mandated program weights and allotment changes, teacher compensation, and other staff compensation for 2021, which will be a year from now, 30 additional days or a half day, 80 days, or K through 5. And, as well, when they talk about standards, testing in school, we're reporting on a lot of that. And the teacher incentive allotment, that's a lot to be determined also. And we're supposed to have, like I said, a special ed and comp ed allotment by 2030. I hope sooner than later. And this little chart, I really love this chart. And I have to say a big thank you to Paige Maloney. I think it's one that she had developed this chart, and she said, sure, we can go ahead and use it. I thought you created something really good, and I'm just going to put it in this slideshow. And it just kind of tells you basic allotment, talks to you about golden pennies, talks to you about copper pennies. It tells you that, okay, if you were at $1.04, then the rest rate for your taxes will be 93 cents, and you can add 4 golden pennies. So our tax rate will be 97. We can't do a TRE in 1920. That's not an option. So we will be taxing on local at 97 cents, and that's down from $1.04. So, but in 2021, if the board chooses, we can go on the penny, but you have to do the math this program. And that 1 penny would generate us, I think around 1.2 billion, something like that. And so, if we could go up 4 pennies, we could see something like 3.3 million. So, anyway, that's how it goes with the TRE. And then later on, I'll explain how to do the TRE or what you want to do. But our tax rate will be 97 cents. So, right now, we used to be able to use prior year's appraised value when you did your template, but they changed that to current year value. It makes it a little bit harder because when it was the prior years, you had actual numbers. But now with the current numbers, you have an estimate because you're not going to get your appraised value from the county appraisal district until July 26th. So I'm having an estimate of what I think appraised value will be. So it will change when we get that formula from them and their amount. But right now, our 18-19, our tax rate is $1.325, and with the second lowest tax rate in their county, and an average home taxable value with exceptions is $147,965. So currently for 18-19, homeowner paid $1,960.54. But for 19-20, we will go from $1.04 to 97. We will go from 28.5 cents to 24 cents in INS because our bond payments go down. So that's a good thing. The taxpayers will save some more money. And then, so our new tax rate will be $1.21. That's a decrease of 11.5 cents. And that's a substantial decrease. So basically, a taxpayer will see an annual decrease in tax of $170.16 on a $147,965 value home. And if you divide that by 12, you're looking at a little over $14 a month that they will save in taxes. And to talk about TRE, 1920, no TRE election is allowed. And in 2021, you can increase your tax rate, like I told you, by 1 cent for another golden penny, which would yield us about $1.2 million if we just wanted to go up to 1 penny. But y'all must approve that unanimous. Now, 2021, we could hold the TRE election, but there's a lot of steps and hoops you have to jump through to do it. You have to have an efficiency audit. It must be done by an independent audit firm. You can use your current audit firm that does your financials if you like to. They have to do that 4 months before election day. So if y'all decided y'all wanted to do that, we probably need to have them start on the audit in April or May. And but 30 days prior to the election, the district has to post the efficiency audit on the district's webpage. The election must be held on the November uniform election day. And it depends right now, what everyone is knowing, it depends on TA's compressed tax rate for 2021 on how many pennies you can go to the voters. But if you give 3 cents of those, could be golden, and you get 98.56 per water, and 6 cents, if you could go for the whole 9 cents, which you might not be able to, would be copper, which would give you $49.28. So right now, any copper penny would generate $612,000 for the district. But that's a lot of what ifs, and that's what conversations to be talking about if we want to go to this. Okay, the compensation plan. For teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors, our starting salary is going to stay at $51,500. Years of experience, 1 through 5. We're giving an average of 3.14% and an average yearly raise of $1,641 for those teachers with those years of experience. And years of experience, 6 to 10, the average would be 3.36, and their average rate for those different pay grades would be $1,848. Years of experience, 11 through 16, their average increase would be 3.62, and their average salary would be $2,037. And years of experience, 17 or more, they would get a 3.87 increase, and they would see about $2,290 yearly raise. We're also asking to increase the master's stipend by $200 to $1,800, and that also can be used towards what we have to spend as far as the salaries for the teachers. As we had talked before, 75% of the 30% gain for our teachers, librarians, nurses, and counselors is $1.5 million that we have to spend. We feel like we will be very close to that. It doesn't always have to be just in salary, it can be in benefits. So one thing that we're looking forward to doing, and this is something Mr. Toscano had been looking at last year, is increasing the district's compensation rate on the health insurance by $50. $50 might say, well, that's not a whole lot, but $50 for us is over $400,000 a year that we have to pay. And it's a start. So that all can be used on the compensation plan except for what was given to Edna. So those can't be used. And 25% And that is around 522,000 we have to spend, and that one will be easy to obtain. And also this total gain formula is a moving target, like Roland had said. It's based on state aid, ADA, tax collections. So we have to kind of look at where we're at every 6 weeks when we get those, contacted our reports. And in late spring, we will calculate if we have reached the 30% required to spend. If not, then we will make a one-time non-eligible TRS lump sum payment to the employee. That might just be for teachers. I really feel like for the other employees in 522, I feel like we read that very easily. Compensation for other staff. Non-teaching staff who are paid on the teacher's salary schedule will receive the same rate as the teacher's librarians. Whatever they got, the instructional facilitators, the specialists, if you're paid on the teacher's salary schedule, you're going to be getting the same rates as the teacher's librarians, counselors, and nurses. And until TDA updates their coding list, we're hoping that they will be considered as a teaching, but we'll just have to wait for them to do that. Auxiliary staff and paraprofessional staff, we adjusted the minimum, midpoint, and maximum ranges because we haven't done that in a while. So we adjusted those by 4%. But then what raise they got was 3.5% increase based on the midpoint. So, for instance, our custodial will now start at 1082 and up from 1050. So we're trying to make a little bit of gains. And I will tell you, it's very hard to compete against ECISD when they make their wages as all starting at the lowest starting rate is $15 an hour. So that's very hard for all the districts around to put their staff starting at $15 an hour. But we're trying to do the best we can, and we feel like going up will help, plus some other little programs we're going to do for them. And administrators, they're going to get their midpoint, minimum and maximum were increased also, and they're going to get a 3% increase based on midpoint. Bus drivers and monitors, I wanted to make sure that they got 3.5%. They're paid on by route, not by midpoint maximum. So by increasing them $2.55 per day for regular drivers per route, they'll get the 3.5% like all the other accidents. And monitors will get $1.94 increase, and they will see the same kind of percent raise as the auxiliary have. And the driver training rate is going to go up to $10 an hour because we're asking our drivers and our monitors to come to more trainings on their off days. And we want to compensate them enough to come to that training. Basically, right now we do minimum wage, and it's not as enticing to them. But we feel like if we can increase it, we can have more of them come to the training, and hopefully that it will succeed in them getting the training.
Make one point of clarification. With the administrators, and it's 3%, smaller percent of the groups, although the percent of their salary and everything lower to our amount. Judy and I talked a lot about that, and we thought about having that percent be less, so the dollar amount would be more than the teacher would get. But that's the only group we gave nothing to last year. We gave every other group of employee $500 in administration. And speaking with me, we all agree, no administrator gets anything. And that one didn't sit well with you guys. I heard that immediately. Taking that feedback, Judy and I decided that the percentage should be less than the other group. We should make it so low that the dollar amount would be less than the teachers. So I just wanted that to be fully disclosed to make sure that we can consider that.
Other benefits, I talked about that we're going to
Good set.
And you know, another thing we really want to do is keep them in the classroom.
Right.
You know, that's the main thing, is keep the teachers in the classroom.
That you keep it. That you keep
The summary of finances and revenues provided by Region 13 over person from current homeowner agreement. I just got an email, it's made a little change today. So it's drawn budget forward in the last 3 weeks. So it doesn't always cause a change for some districts and some causes major changes. And our ADA, that we're going to use for next year, is going to be very concerned too. Because our ADA came very low last year, 1890. So our ADA ended at 9,071, which was 200 below the previous year. So we're going to just go with 9,489, and hopefully the rest is going to help it exceeds that, because that will really help our district. And I already talked to you about using the current appraised value. And also, because of the increase in funding for the state combat, early education department, we're going to be reviewing budgets, needs assessments, and staffing for eligible expenditures for those funds, as well as additional expenditures for those funds, which what I'm just trying to tell you is, don't be surprised if you don't see budget increase coming in the next year. Okay, we have to find this person, that person, we need to spend this money, that program, the state combat, because right now I just don't know how well we're going to have already by the time we get off the budget. I know we're going to be progressing again, but there might be additional programs that we say, hey, we're really need to use, and we'll be bringing those back to the and we will do an update for the 1920 budget at the July 18th meeting. And so that way y'all have a little bit better idea, you'll see kind of where we're at with other items, whether it's contract services, supplies, so forth and so on. We'll have a little bit firmer budget, besides just talking about hospital aid and compensation. And we're doing a little something different this year. All the schools in the province are working on a needs assessment. So when they have the DLT, they're working on a needs assessment. We're going to do their preliminary budget, they present it to us, and that's what we get. We're going to have to review it again. This is really what your needs assessment is. And so that way, if they have some changes, we can make them ready before we see each other. So we're really going to have some time with this, make sure it's what you need for your school and campus. You know, it's online, and some things might have changed, and so that's what we're going to do that. And this
So one of the big requirements is going to be an effective school system, an effective school, is every budget needs to be aligned to the priority needs that were determined through the assessment. So it's very rare for a district to have a formalized process for ensuring that's the case before we move into the year. Normally, do our best guess and then we do an autopsy for the year. So we're going to have leadership put all of these plans together. They're working on them all summer. We're going to start the year with really good plans based on really good priorities. We've got evidence to prove these are the most important priorities, and we're going to make sure the budget's on. So we're pretty pleased with that. That's good for us, because that's going to make us much more efficient in terms of our finances.
any questions?
I was slightly curious, maybe more than slightly, on the allotment for gifted and talented education that said it repealed the allotment, and yet districts were certified that they have a talented program. where more weight was given to special education, dyslexia, career, and bilingual and pre-K, that more weight was given to that and less was taken, does that equate to that, or is that?
The assumption is that the new dollars that you got in the basic allotment, you should be able to take care of your GT program. And we're gonna make sure you do, and we're gonna reduce your funding if you don't. But we're not gonna give you any funding anymore, because you should figure it out in the new basic allotment. That's kind of,
Like a full day pre-K.
yeah.
You gotta have one. but they're
Yeah.
not paid for.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of that in this legislation.
Yeah, that one just kind of jumped out at me, but I'm sure more will jump out over time. Okay, thank you.
So Judy, does the extra money going into insurance payment count as part of the 75% of the 30%?
It does, for the qualifying teachers, librarians, and counselors, as well for the other staff. It wouldn't count for Shannon Fuller's, what we give her, it will
Right.
count. And what they're going to do, December of 2020, I will have to send a report to TA on every individual and show every individual what they've gained, so that I can prove to TA, it's not just East Central, it's the whole state of Texas. And we'll have to show how this teacher, what she made, what she got in benefits, we did the total amount equal what your gain is for. So that's gonna have to happen in December of 2020.
So which is better for the employee? Giving them $50 towards their insurance or giving them an additional $50 in education?
It depends on which employee you ask. You know, one thing about the $50 is that East Central is one of the very few districts that pay a lot less on what they pay towards their health insurance. We're pretty standard what we're paying as far as what for salaries, but we are under what we're paying for our health insurance. And some of those people really want to see that they get another
There's
$50.
a threshold too that we've got to stay above for the
Yeah.
affordable care.
Yeah,
And we're, actually last year,
we're pretty close, and this year we would not.
we may not hit it.
So
Part of that was
$50.
we had to, we did talk a lot about trying to maximize the sum. But we're like 75, in some cases $200 a month behind other district contributions to healthcare. And that's been the case for quite a while. But one of the bigger driving forces is staying above that affordable care threshold. Because we don't hit that, we're not compliant with that. I don't know what the sanctions are, but
It could be severe.
part of it's that. So we're even with the $50, we're lagging behind everybody. But we would rather we really need to put 100 in there, but we'd rather put as much as we can in salary. If that makes sense. But we can find out what that minimum threshold is and just get there.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, other than your employees who aren't taking health care and aren't getting anything.
Because we have about half. Because we
Yeah,
have
7
about
something is about half.
14. So we have about half who take
Take lots of money. You're right.
and half who don't. You know, and really, I would say for the teachers, we pretty much about maybe 70%.
Yeah.
So let me ask this, if we add $50 and premiums, we know what they're proposed to be. An employee now with that $375 contribution, how close are they to being almost free monthly for the HD plan, for an individual?
I'd have to go and look and see what the new rates are.
There might be a
Well,
possibility.
I mean, if you give them an extra $50 in their paycheck, they got to pay taxes on that. If you spend it on their insurance, there's no taxes to be paid on that. So there's a little bit of advantage to making it in their health care. But that's fine.
Yeah, but I'll be glad to do that. You know, Shannon can get that information right.
We'll look at it real close again. Any other questions? A lot of information, you know it.
Joey, I want to thank you for your hard work in putting together for the board to review like that.
Well, thank
I
you.
know there's a lot of work put into this and that,
Well,
and I really appreciate your time on that.
thank you very much. It's a little kind of stressful this time because of the fact is there were so many unknowns and there were so many, nobody telling you what you need to know. And there wasn't a lot of guidance except them telling you, be patient, don't do anything. Well, you can only wait and be patient so long and then you're going to have to come up. Now, I will tell you that Rona did ask me to call around to some school districts to see what they're doing. And I want to share that with you of what, I called around to 4 school districts. Northside, they're not going to tell you a thing until July 17th. And so she wouldn't even share, and I've known her a long time, she wouldn't even share what they're going to do. Northeast didn't respond. Judson, for teachers under 5 years, they're getting a 3.10% increase. Over 6 years, it's 3.7. Everybody else is just getting a 2.75% raise. And Shirt Cibolo, 6 years is only going to get 2.5% raise. 6 years and more is going to get 3. Others are going to get a 2.5, and admin is going to get a 2%. And I think I skipped over one of them that I feel like is really something that we need to make sure y'all know about. There's a group of our paraprofessionals who are really our unsung heroes. And that is our behavior and our life skills heroes. These people, I know I could not do that. They go in there and they have a hard job every day. And, you get beat up, you get all kinds of things. It's a difficult situation. And we felt like, because we were getting so many of them saying, hey, move me to a regular special ed there. And the salary wasn't very much different. So, yeah, I'll move back down there for just a few $100s a year, less money.
They say that in the hospital.
Yes. Yeah. And so what we've done is for our paraprofessionals who are, behavior unit and our life skills, they're going to get a $2 an hour raise. It's going to be substantial. Most of them are going to see about a $2,900 a year raise. Not other pay rates will see that, but we feel like we need to keep them in their area. Because we've had some say, well, let me become a safety monitor, I can make more money. Let me move into this. I think that they will finally realize they're appreciated and they're making nice money.
Life skill pairs and redirect pairs are going to get a bigger raise than veteran teachers in dollar amount. And it's been a long time. One other group is we're doubling the stipend for LSSPs. Y'all are familiar with all the state of Texas got in trouble for an accountability mechanism they put in place to reduce. You got in trouble if you had more than 8% of your students identified special education, and it's wrong. Of course, the TA turned around and said, oh, God, schools messed it up. They blame that on districts. The reality of it is that's been changed, and now it's required a ton more of the special education evaluations, and LSSPs do the largest amount of that. And so their stipend, we felt like doubling that was reasonable given the additional scope of work that was not the case for LSSPs previous to this change. So, and they're a hard group to keep. They're very in demand now. So we felt like that was another group that we would pay attention to. And thirdly, we're going to try an incentive program for grounds maintenance and custodians that they'll have the opportunity to earn a couple $100, $2, $3, what was it? $300 every quarter, right? If they meet the attendance requirements, they have no performance issues and no behavior issues. If there's a good employee doing the work that they need to do, they can qualify for a little extra money every quarter. And we felt like on top of the hourly rate raise that they'll get, that might help with their attendance and their performance and their retention. So we're going to see what happens. I think that'd be good.
those teachers and administrators did so much. And I think they really appreciate that. They work you could get on out there. You know what it is. They do a lot of
I will agree with that. I also think that in many cases, some recognition of the job well done is almost as good as a record. But it's got to be a heartfelt recognition. It can't be on the good job. When you look at something else down the hall while you're telling them that you did a great job, it's got to be an affirmation that is heartfelt so that you feel like we're appreciate. Yeah. Shooting on the IFA, is there any opportunity for us to go back and have some IFA money to apply for what we just had?
We're gonna try. We're gonna check.
No,
Yeah, we talked
can't
about
say
it.
yes if you don't
Yes.
ask. You know, it's a couple of years ago, we had an issue with one of the schools where they were below, and we appealed it, and we got it very fun. So,
Yeah, in this formula, we don't qualify for the IFA. We don't qualify for the EDA. Last year, we didn't qualify for the we didn't qualify for no formulas. We don't even qualify that this coming year.
good.
But, I'm.
Our arguments that we qualified for more last year, you didn't have money to give us. Now that you have the money, you can at least give us what you owed us by formula last year.
Yeah, you're
That's what we're gonna
talking
try.
You're talking about the new instructional systems.
Yes.
I was also talking about the IFA for the next.
Right.
We don't get that. But I am gonna call the gentleman that does the NFIA money to see if they, can't you at least make it good what you did?
Yeah.
You know, and see what they say.
Hey, he says, well, seems good. And it is crew.
Yeah.
Have done with trouble.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the budget? So it's a work in progress, as usual, until we see the final product. Next month, we're going to have an additional budget work session to go over the information, so we can be ready for August when we want to do the option. We'll keep on top of this stuff. All right, so we're going to move back now to item 6A, consideration of possible action for approval of compensation adjustments for July and August 2019.
And I thought you were gonna.
Okay, trustees, per EA legal, employees who get their contracts in July, the board must approve compensation increases prior to signing the contract. So you won't be approving the compensation until August first, until one budget, but you've got some employees whose new contract for 1920 starts in July and August. So by policy, the board's got to authorize districts to give compensation in July and August prior to the approval of the budget based on the recommendations listed there, which are consistent with what we intended for you tonight. Now, if you don't do this, one, in violation of policy. Number two, we would have to pay the retro pay, and that doesn't qualify for TRS. Okay, so for our employees, that's a big deal, especially getting close to retirement. It's a big deal with your average top salaries. So we want to make sure that we line the policy that we don't do that. And it's a small number of employees, relatively speaking. It's a tune of about $40,000 based on projected salary increases, based on percentages for those folks that qualify for the 12 contract. So that's what we're asking you to consider.
Any questions?
All right, Mr. President, I recommend board approval of compensation adjustments for July and August 2019 as
Recommendation to the superintendent to accept the adjustments to July and August operating bill. Have a motion by Mr. Garza, is there a second? Second by Mr. Hoffman, favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Do you have anything else? Item 8, Chair, take a motion to adjourn. Motion and a second, and a third reading.